Welcome to the All the Stuff podcast, where we jam about money, clutter, and food, and the real stuff under this stuff. Join me, Lisa Carpenter, your resident food coach, along with my co-hosts, money coach Jen Turrell and clutter coach Lisa Sharp, as we help you release what's weighing you down and heal your relationship with food, money, and clutter from the inside out. Welcome to today's episode of the All the Stuff podcast. My name is Lisa Carpenter. I am the nutrition coach of the group. I have Jen Turrell here, our money coach, and Lisa Sharp, our clutter coach. And today is kind of a bittersweet episode for us, because if you've been following along for the last little while, some of the most recent episodes that we've put out, we've been talking about mental health, how to navigate kind of stormy waters in our business and life. And I know for me personally, there's been a lot of self-reflection. There's been some very big changes that have gone down in my life, including me paying my debt, which ironically, that is a big deal. But what was a bigger deal was actually realizing it was never for me about the money, meaning that I fundamentally closed the loop and disrupted behavior patterns that I've had for years, right? And I'm not saying that they couldn't rise up again, because that's kind of how default behavior patterns work, but there's this deep knowing in me that I will no longer carry debt. Like, it's so funny now, guys. I got this fancy points credit card, which sounds weird for a person who, is addicted to debting to have a new credit card, but I get travel points. But I literally put something on my card, and this is where my mindset is at. I put it on my card, and then I immediately go into my bank account and I pay what I just put on my card. So there's like 2 more extra steps there, but it's a non-negotiable for me. I want the points because I like to travel. So this is how it rolls. But these behavior patterns fundamentally for me have shifted. I am a different person. I paid down my debt before in the past and then just racked up the debt again because I didn't deal with the underlying behaviors. And that really is in essence why we started this podcast, because we wanted to talk about how food and money and clutter, it's never really about those things. It's about closing the behavior loops on the things that are actually getting in the way, which is our emotional thermostat. It's feeling our feelings. It's recognizing what we're using to mood alter and avoid coming to terms with in our lives. So the irony is not lost on me that during this reflection of, I've paid off my debt, which has also very much changed my motivation in my business, right? Because we're either motivated by moving away from pain or inspired by moving towards pleasure. And I think as human beings, more often than not, we're trying to get away from what we don't want. And when that thing is no longer there, and I've literally had my debt from the time I graduated high school, which was back in 1990, that's when I got my first credit card. It's weird not having it with me. And I've gone through a bit of a grief period, which has also been transformational, because it's weird to feel grief over something that you never wanted, but then seeing the value in, like, it had so much value in terms of it drove me so hard in my business to get my work out there, because that was, one part of it was being inspired to help all the people I help. And the other part was, you got to pay your bills, Lisa. Like, you got to keep your head above water. You got to do the things. And my debt actually helped me grow my business in terms of investing in the things I invested in. And so when I say I've been grieving it, it literally is like this phenomenal and dysfunctional relationship, putting it to bed, closing the loop on it, recognizing that I am fundamentally a different person. And the work that I do on myself and continue to do on myself, and the work that I put out in the world is changing and is growing and evolving, as is my programs and as is this podcast. So I know I speak for everybody in this group. This was not an easy decision for us to get to as we're sitting here, and you probably can see the direction I'm going with this as as I dance us into this, because there's really no good way to say goodbye, and that the time for this has come to an end. We've all been reviewing where we want to go in our businesses, where we want to go with this podcast, what it means to us, how we can best honor the people we're serving of course, by honoring our own needs first, because that's really what this podcast is about as well, is learning or teaching you guys and leading through example of this is what it means to say, this is what I need to do for me, even if you might not like it and you might not agree with it. And we are all kind of in this place in our businesses and in our lives where we're wanting to, for lack of a better term, declutter, because we're not saying we want to declutter our listeners. We obviously appreciate you guys and love you guys. But it's saying, what do we need to put down so that we can grow and expand into other areas where we can serve in a bigger way with more intention, and bring more value to you. And we, as much as, we love hanging out with each other in this podcast and we love bringing you guys these topics, we don't feel that it's growing us as individuals, as individual business owners, as individual people. And so this is actually going to be the final episode of the All the Stuff podcast. So that was just kind of my close out off the top of my head. And I want to toss it over to either, Jen or Lisa to give their kind of thoughts on how they came to this conclusion. And so who wants to jump in? That's kind of like in a nutshell, everything's changed. Nothing's the same. And I'm feeling like, the grade 8 or you guys have a different school system, but when you go from like grade school into like high school and the kids look like they don't fit their bodies and they're awkward. That's how I feel kind of right now in my business. I'm like, oh, this feels like awkward. I'm growing into this new thing and I'm still doing this like food coaching and health coaching and I'm doing this other big thing now too. And it's all awkward and crazy.
I think it's funny that all of us are kind of in a similar place too. Because with discussing this, I'm also planning on rebranding my other podcast. I'm going to stop Financial Fluency and just reboot as a Jen Turrell show as well, because as much as I love talking about money, I want to talk about a lot of other things too. So I'm shifting that around and doing some other new things in myself and focusing a lot more on writing than I ever have before. And I think for me at least, I've seen this podcast as one of my sort of recharge times during the month when I get to hang out with two people I really love hanging out with and have some really great discussions. And I really never did make it a strategic part of any kind of business plan. We really didn't make a marketing plan for it. We thought the conversations were interesting and cool and that we should share them. And I think we've shared some really great stuff. But I don't think there was any exact way that it fit for any of us. And we kind of tried to force it into some possible financial ROI with trying to figure out a retreat to do. But when it came down to it, I feel like the discussions of all of these areas that we're in are really, really interesting. But it's been kind of a hard way to bring in new people and really grow an audience just for this podcast, other than our own audiences that have come into it. So I kind of feel like I've really enjoyed it. It's been great. We've kind of run a course. We've run through a lot of different areas of life. We've talked about a lot of things that apply to all three of us and the audiences we all three talk to. So I think it's definitely been a success in that we've had great conversations and shared a lot of great content. But I do kind of feel like we've run our course at this point. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Lisa Sharp?
I love evaluating things. I love looking at things and seeing what works and what doesn't work and what feels good and what used to feel good but not as good, what feels bad, how can I change it. I do this in every facet of my life, and I find that to be a really regenerative and forward-moving way of doing life. So there's always something that can be shed. There's always something to be picked up. And I think it makes life really fun and interesting. And I'm really, I always want to let go of something before it becomes a negative. Yeah. And we have had so much fun. You guys don't even know. Before we even hit record on these, we're having a good time. Mm-hmm. And I just love these two women, and I love these conversations. I think they have a lot of value. And, because a lot of it, so many of our issues in life are really just because we think we're the only ones.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that have this, that, or the other issue. And I hope that these conversations have helped you realize that we're really all in this together. All of us are struggling. All of us are succeeding. All of us are learning. All of us are falling down. And it's all normal. So like, that's honestly in my business, that is one of my biggest drivers, is to normalize things for people. Because being isolated and thinking it's just you is just so painful, and it's so not necessary. And I think just having honest conversations with one another and saying how life is really actually going and not just it's fine is one of the biggest gifts that we can give to each other. So I'm really sad to see this going. I'll probably shed a tear over it. But I'm really glad that we came together and we did this inspired thing. And I hope that people can learn from that taking inspired action is fantastic. And then, when it's time to let go, let go.
It really was an inspired idea. And I was like, guys, I think we should do this. And I'm so grateful that you both hopped on my little crazy train here and said, yeah, let's do this thing, because it has opened up so much conversation around things that people weren't talking about. I know it's grown me, not just as, an entrepreneur, but also as a coach, right? Like knowing now, coaching around food has been such a big part of my life for so long. I really built, the foundation of my business on that. And it still is going to continue to play a role in my business. My programs are still going to be there. But also feeling this call to expand into working with a variety of people. Like I love working with overachievers and ripping that stuff down, because it's such a part of my journey, and my business has changed fundamentally because of the work I've done on myself. And I know that I'm kind of being called into a bigger space. So, and it's, like I said, it's awkward because I don't really know where I do all these things. And then we're supposed to have like a clear vision, and we're supposed to know, like, I don't know.
Everybody throws spaghetti.
All I know is that there's so much garbage going on out there. There's so many like smoke and mirrors. And I believe that part of my mission on this planet is to bust through the smoke and mirrors and allow other people to see what's really going on for people behind the scenes. So I want to have bigger conversations with other entrepreneurs about, like I was telling you guys, the face down, like ugly cry, snotty nose moment in the bathroom when they feel like their world is closing in on them, not the polished story that they take for the magazine article. Like I want to have those real and raw conversations with people, because I think that they're needed for those of us who are running our own businesses, which means I have to expand past just the people who are listening because they're wanting to make peace with food in their bodies. So I get to have all these arms in my business, even if they feel like they don't always fit together, and I don't need to make them fit together. So that's kind of, a new thing. So I know for me personally, anybody who's wanting to connect with me, my business, and the work that I do, I've made it super easy to follow. So what I've done is my team is like cheering, because strategy and systems, right? So it's not even strategy, it's like consistency and systems, Lisa. So every Monday morning now at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I do a Facebook Live. And that's just going to be, that's where you can find me regularly every week. If you want to tune in, I'll be talking about the same type of stuff. And Facebook Live now has just added where you can invite a guest on live.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to try that.
Yeah, so that's a new thing. So
maybe we'll hop on with each other.
We can hop on, right? Like the bottom line is we are still accessible in all of our different platforms for people to connect with us and carry on the conversation outside of this podcast. And I really encourage you guys to stay, if you're a regular listener, stay connected to us, stay dialed into what we're doing, and continue to stretch yourself and grow, and allow us the opportunity to stretch ourselves and grow beyond this podcast as well.
And if you have going on in your world, that maybe there's just do a little evaluation of what's going on, volunteer work, extracurricular activities, things you're doing with your kids, hobbies that you're doing, exercise that you don't like doing. Do a little check of your own life and see what is And listen to your body first. Don't listen to this. Listen to this. If that gut reaction is like, that's the one. No matter what your brain tells you, ignore her.
Yeah. Because
this, where you are, ignore her.
Deciding to close this down, for me, it was just like, I knew it. Like, we were having a discussion about something, and I knew it. I'm like, it's time for me. So it is very hard to look at the pieces of your life and say what is working and what isn't working, and have the courage to walk away, even though you know it's going to upset people and some people are going to be unhappy about it. Now, I've gotten pretty good at this. Left my marriage. That was the hardest one to say, this is not working for me, even though on the outside everything was perfect and rosy, great man. And, I've talked about that before. It wasn't serving my greatest good in terms of what I knew was waiting for me. And we only open the doors to those possibilities when we're willing to shed the things that no longer serve us, when we're willing to get honest with ourselves about what is and isn't working in our lives, instead of, like Lisa Sharp was saying, ignoring those pulls in our gut that are saying, this doesn't feel good, this isn't right. You want to know why you're tired all the time, why you're not, why you have no motivation to do anything, why you're feeling a little like sluggish in your life. It's probably because there's a lot of stuff that is weighing you down that doesn't need to be there, whether it's physical weight, emotional weight, an extra person that needs to go, the bad relationship, clutter, the whole
calendar clutter, too busy.
Right?
And I did want to say that we are going to leave past episodes, particularly in the YouTube. I don't think there's any reason to take that away anytime soon. They'll probably stay on iTunes for a while as well. So if you've missed some with us coming out every week and you want to go back and check some of them out, I do think that there's a lot of value in the past episodes too. So feel free to go peruse. Those aren't going anywhere soon. And and we'll totally be happy to keep in touch with anybody who wants to keep in touch with us.
Absolutely.
So we don't have to do our normal wrap-up of subscribe, rate, and review, since we're kind of...
I mean, you can.
You can still subscribe, rate, and review if you want, but...
You'll be waiting a long time for the next episode to come out. I highly suggest that, like I said, we'll put the links to where you can find us, whether you're hopping on our mailing list or you're, signing up and getting notifications on our Facebook page, whatever it may be. We'll put all those links below. So carry on the conversation with us outside of here. If this podcast has opened your eyes or shook stuff up in you that has really impacted you, we'd love to hear from you. Like, feel free to email us. I'll have my email address in the show notes. Quite often, people come into our lives for a certain amount of time that they're there to shift us and shake us up. And I deeply appreciate it when I hear from somebody that you impacted my life. And I know there's been many people in my life that I've never shared that with. Yeah. So I make it a point now moving forward to do that. So if this podcast has impacted your life, by all means, please reach out and share with us. Yeah. But other than that, this is it, ladies. I'm sure we'll connect again because
can't get rid of us.
Yeah, but we don't actually. We just won't we just won't be recording it to share it with us. It'll be different. Secret sauce behind the scenes of what's going on for all of us.
Jen's all choked up about this.
All right. So I know, like, Lisa, you still have a book in the works? Yay, nay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have a book in the works now. I never talked about that, but anyways, the book's in the works. I don't know what that looks like. But now I'll have a little bit more time to expand into that. Jen, you've got your book. We're doing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys don't want to miss our journeys.
Or your own.
Exactly. It's fun. So anything you guys want to close with? Like, I so appreciated hanging out with you guys. I love you. I love the conversations we've had. Again, thank you for being part of this crazy ride of let's do this. And like Lisa said, such a testament to get the idea, do the thing.
Oh, absolutely. Go with it.
And reassess it afterwards.
That's right.
And don't be afraid to say,
listen to your gut.
Yeah, not anymore.
Your gut. Bottom
not
line.
Anymore.
Yeah, man.
All right, ladies.
Thank you, everyone. We've so appreciated your time and feedback and everything. And we will see you around. We'll put all of our links where you can find our newsletters and Facebook pages and all that kind of stuff below.
And that's a wrap, ladies. Bye.